The moment something goes wrong, before logic even wakes up, the mind points outward. It's almost automatic. The missed deadline becomes someone else's distraction. The argument becomes their tone, their words, their attitude. The failure becomes bad luck, a biased system, an unfair world. And if you're honest with yourself, you felt it too. That quiet relief that comes when blame finds a home outside your own chest. Tonight's story begins there, in that instant where the brain makes a choice before you even realize a choice was made. Not because you are weak, not because you are dishonest, but because your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Picture a man sitting alone in his car after a long day. The engine is off. The street is dark. His phone buzzes with a message he's been expecting, but secretly dreading. He reads it once, then again. His chest tightens. He exhales sharply and says out loud, "Of course, typical." In his mind, the story forms fast. His boss doesn't appreciate him. The system is broken. People are incompetent. What never crosses his mind in that moment is the uncomfortable question, did I play a role in this? Not yet. That question comes later, if it comes at all. This isn't a flaw unique to him. This is human psychology in its purest, rawest form. From the outside, blaming others looks like denial. But from the inside, it feels like protection. The human brain is built around survival, not truth. Long before we cared about self-awareness or personal growth, our ancestors needed one thing more than anything else: to stay alive. And to stay alive, the brain learned to protect the self-image at all costs, because in early human societies, social standing meant survival. Being seen as capable, trustworthy, and valuable wasn't about ego. It was about access to food, safety, and the group. A threat to your reputation was a threat to your life. So the brain developed shortcuts, mental defense mechanisms. One of the most powerful is blame shifting. When something goes wrong, the brain instinctively looks outward because internal blame feels like danger. It feels like weakness. It feels like exposure. This is why the first emotional reaction to failure is rarely curiosity. It's resistance. There's a reason it happens fast. Neuroscience shows us that emotional responses are processed in the brain milliseconds before rational thought. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, reacts to threat before the prefrontal cortex can analyze facts. And your brain doesn't distinguish between physical danger and psychological discomfort very well. A threat to your ego lights up similar pathways as a threat to your body. So when a mistake threatens how you see yourself, the brain reacts defensively, pushing the blame outward, away from the self, towards something safer to attack. Think about childhood for a moment. A child spills a glass of milk. Before the parent even speaks, the child blurts out, "The table was shaky." No one teaches them that line. It emerges naturally. Not because the child is manipulative, but because accountability feels heavy when you're still learning who you are. That instinct doesn't disappear with age. It just gets more sophisticated. As adults, we replace simple excuses with complex explanations. We blame timing, management, culture, society, and circumstances, all often valid, but rarely the full picture. Psychologists call this the self-serving bias. When things go well, we credit our intelligence, our skill, our effort. When things go wrong, we credit external forces. Studies across cultures, professions, and age groups show the same pattern. Students blame unfair exams. Athletes blame referees. Employees blame leadership. Leaders blame market conditions. The brain bends reality gently in our favor without us even noticing. Not to deceive others, but to preserve our identity. And here's the uncomfortable part. The smarter you are, the better you become at justifying yourself. High intelligence doesn't eliminate bias. It refines it. Intelligent people construct more convincing stories around their innocence. The brain becomes a skilled lawyer, not a neutral judge. It gathers evidence selectively, ignoring details that threaten the narrative. This is confirmation bias at work, reinforcing blame patterns over time, slowly shaping how a person sees the world. But there's another layer to this story, one we rarely talk about. Blaming others doesn't just protect the ego. It shields us from pain we don't feel ready to carry. Self-blame, when it goes too far, can turn into shame. And shame, unlike guilt, attacks identity. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. The brain knows this difference instinctively, so it avoids the second at all costs. Blame becomes a buffer against self-destruction. This is why in moments of intense loss or failure, people don't immediately look inward. A business collapses and the founder blames the economy. A relationship ends and both partners blame each other. Grief, anger, and disappointment flood the system. Self-reflection requires emotional safety, and in the raw aftermath of pain, safety is scarce. The brain also hates uncertainty. Admitting fault opens a door to questions without easy answers. If this was my mistake, what else about me is wrong? That question destabilizes the sense of control. Blaming others offers something comforting. A clean explanation. A villain. A cause with edges. The mind prefers a flawed story over a frightening mystery. Over time, this habit shapes personality. People who constantly blame others begin to feel powerless. Ironically, by avoiding responsibility, they give up control. If everything is someone else's fault, then nothing is truly changeable. The brain trades short-term comfort for long-term stagnation. And because the relief of blame is immediate, while growth is slow and uncomfortable, the pattern reinforces itself again and again. But sometimes, life interrupts the pattern. Not gently. Sometimes it interrupts violently. Imagine a woman in her late 30s, successful by most standards, sitting across from a therapist for the first time. She begins confidently, listing all the people who have wronged her: bad managers, difficult partners, unfair systems. But halfway through her story, something shifts. Her voice cracks. There's a long pause, and then she says quietly, I don't know why this keeps happening to me. That question is dangerous. It points inward. It threatens the old narrative. But it also opens the door to transformation. Neuroscience tells us that self-awareness activates different neural circuits. When we reflect honestly, the prefrontal cortex engages, slowing emotional reactions and integrating context. This doesn't happen automatically. It requires effort. It requires tolerating discomfort without rushing to escape it. That's why true accountability feels heavy at first. It asks you to sit with uncertainty, to hold conflicting truths, to admit that multiple things can be true at once, that yes, the system can be flawed, and you can still grow within it. Here's the myth worth busting. People often believe that taking responsibility means punishing yourself. It doesn't. Healthy accountability isn't self-hatred. It's self-respect. It says, I am